Hello, my name's Greg Watford and welcome to this video and thank you for joining me. Have you been asking the question, how do I get rich? Well, if you have, you're in the right place. Now before we start our journey together, I'd like to tell you a story. And that story starts almost over a century ago when a young journalist happened to be interviewing one of the richest men in the world. It's sort of like Bill Gates to the 21st century. Well, Andrew Carnegie was to the 20th century, except he was into steel. So Andrew Carnegie was extremely rich. He was worth squillions of dollars in our terms. And after the interview, of which this young journalist was asking how did he become successful, how did he become rich, what made the difference in his life, because Andrew Carnegie actually came from a poor background with virtually no education, and here he is basically one of the richest people in the world. So Andrew said, I've got some mates that they would be open to having a chat with you as well. His mates, of course, were the likes of Henry Ford and Theodore Roosevelt and John D. Rockefeller and Thomas Edison. So this young journalist went from one wealthy, rich person to the next, basically for the next 25 years. And he interviewed roughly 500 people, and he condensed all this, it was almost like a survey, and he condensed this down into a book called Think and Grow Rich. And his name was Napoleon Hill. And in 1937 he produced this fantastic book of the thoughts and information about how successful people have made it in the past. Now, before we continue, I'm going to pass you on to a colleague of ours, a business colleague, Tony Rush. But I'm going to ask you one thing. You've actually started on your journey to find out how to become rich and become successful in your life. But one thing I challenge you to do as I pass you over to Tony, because Tony's pretty much a straight shooter, I'd like you to be open-minded. As an entrepreneur, you need to be open to new ideas, and I'd like you to embrace anything that Tony has to say. Okay, and I'll catch up with you after Tony finishes with you. Okay. All right, Tony, are you there? Let's see. Okay.
Hey guys, Tony Rush here. Getting ready to check out the Opryland Resort, and wanted to shoot you a quick video here. Jessica and I have been here for a few days where we've been hosting an event for our Empower Network team. And anyway, I'm back shooting a video. And man, first of all, what an amazing place. Let me show y'all. This is the view from our room. I don't think I can actually open this window, but it's pretty cool. Check it out. So the Gaylord Opryland Resort is just an absolutely amazing place to do an event. We've had a ball here. So anyway, hey, here's what's kind of on my mind this morning. I was talking to, I was doing an interview yesterday, and somebody was saying, Tony, what would you say your favorite piece of advice is? Most important piece of advice, maybe, is how they asked it. And this is the best thing I can give you, I think. It changed my life. I was a broke, struggling, actually at the time that I kind of got my life figured out a little bit, I was working as a salesman for ADT Home Security, going around knocking on doors and selling people security systems. And when I got this, everything changed for me. I mean, I was making less than $1,000 a month. I was not very good at selling security systems. I was making about $1,000 a month, and when I got this, everything changed for me. Money started flowing in my life faster than you could possibly imagine. I went from $1,000 a month to a couple $1,000s a week within 90 days, and then within the next year, I got my income up to $30,000 or $40,000 a month. And anyway, This works. That's my point. It's worked in my life. It's worked in the lives of people that I have shared this with. I've traveled all over the world to places like Sydney and Puerto Rico and Barcelona, Rome, Italy, Canada, all over the United States, teaching a lot of things, but every time I always include this one. And here it is. You got your big boy pants on? You might need to get your big boy pants on. It's not a tough love or a harsh truth, but it does require a little bit of humbleness. Here it is. Your life looks the way it does right now because this is what you've chosen. Now, when I was making $1,000 a month, I didn't want to hear that. Another way to say it would be, you are where you are because of your best thinking. Again, I didn't want to hear that. When my life wasn't working, I would rather believe that it was all about the politicians who were in office. I liked to believe that it was about gas prices. It was about my negative relatives. It was about my boss who wouldn't give me a raise. It was about the company that I was in, or whatever I was doing at the time. And I always had a list of reasons why it was somebody else's fault for why my life wasn't working. And when I realized there was always one person at the scene of the crime, right? When I realized that, wait a minute, other people are getting rich with those politicians in the White House. Wait a minute, other people are getting rich despite the gas prices and the economy. If I was in a home business and I wasn't making money, there was always somebody that was making some money. So, well, wait a minute. Maybe the problem is me. Maybe the problem is it's not the White House, or it's not the gas prices, right? And when I was willing to humble myself and really kind of take ownership of my life, that's when things shifted for me. That's when I started saying, wait a minute, the problem's not out there. The problem is in here, and it has changed everything. Now, let me put this in perspective. When I said a moment ago, your life is where it is because of your best thinking, here's what I mean by that. If you look at the scale, you step on the scale and you see a number there for how much you weigh, you chose that. Now, I'm not saying that somebody says, well, hey, nobody ever came up to me and said, do you want to be skinny or obese? And I'll make a decision. I get that. But we do make decisions every single day that lead to somebody being overweight. So when we step on the scale, we're seeing this is my best thinking. This is what my best thinking has produced with regard to my physical weight, right? You want to know what your relationships are like. You want to know what your mindset is regarding relationships. All you have to do is look around at relationships, right? Look around and see the quality of relationships that you have in your life, and that's an indication of here's what my best thinking has produced in terms of quality of relationship. You can't say it's always somebody else's fault. I did that, by the way, for years before I got married. I used to date. It was like I was dating the same girl over and over and over. She just had a different name and a different face, right? I was always picking the same kind of person and then wondering why relationships didn't work. So again, if you don't like the way relationships look, you have to take ownership of that. It's not always somebody else's fault. And we're not really even talking about fault. We're talking about the ability to respond, which is responsibility. So taking responsibility for your relationships allows you to say, okay, here's the quality of relationship that I want in my life. And most of you guys are on my mailing list because you're interested in making money. And this is where this concept really, really shines. Because the truth is, it's actually pretty easy to make a lot of money. It really is. It's not as hard as people think to get wealthy. So look at your bank account. Your bank account is not a reflection of who you are, but it is a reflection of the decisions that you've been making lately and the actions you've been taking. So if you're struggling, and you've been struggling for a while, well, you have to be honest with yourself and say, this is what my best thinking has produced. My best thinking has got me broke and struggling. So what's the way out? Well, the way out is to trade in some of that thinking for better thinking. If other people are getting great results in the exact same environment where you're struggling, all you have to do is change your mind. Now, this requires some humbleness. It requires you being willing to be wrong about what you think you know about making money. For instance, when I was growing up, I used to think that making money and getting rich meant I need to get a college degree and work at a big fancy place and be an executive or something, or I need to be a doctor or a lawyer. And then I noticed that there's a lot of wealthy people who are not doctors or lawyers. So I got to uninstall that limiting belief in my life, right? You don't have to be a doctor or a lawyer to be wealthy. You just have to do things a certain way around money. Same thing. If you are constantly robbing Peter to pay Paul, if you're constantly trying to, which bill am I going to pay? The light bill or the car payment? Which one can I pay this week? Your current best thinking has created that situation for you. So all you have to do is change your mind. Now somebody says, well, Tony, how do I change my mind? It's a great question. Glad you asked. The answer is personal development. The answer is getting around the people who are living the way you want to live, and you start modeling some of their behavior. Now, I don't mean that you're going to copy what they're doing necessarily, although sometimes you can, but it does mean to understand how successful people make decisions. How do they handle adversity? How do they, what do they do in terms of action? What are they involved in that's allowing them to have great relationships, great physical health, or great wealth? And we'll just kind of keep our examples limited to money today just for simplicity. So if you want to make, say, $20,000 a month, it's not that hard. What you do is you get around people that are making $20,000 a month or more, and you start observing, how do they think? How do they respond to adversity differently than I do? Do they think bigger than I do? Do they have some action steps that they're doing that I'm not doing? All kinds of things like this. And you can learn a lot just by being around them. And of course, if you find someone who's actually willing to take you under their wing and say, here's exactly what I do to make $20,000 a month, and here you can copy it, well, that's even better, right? And the same thing works all the way up the ladder. If you want to make $50,000 a month, then you can do that. Like right now, I'm at a place, and we have an income disclaimer. You can see a link to that somewhere below this video. Not everybody's going to have the results that I have in my business, but right now I'm averaging a little over $3,000 to $4,000 per day in my business. And yet I know people in this industry that are making $6,000 a day. I know people that are making $8,000 a day. So I'm looking to double my income in the next 12 months so that I can start supporting some of the charities and some of the organizations that Jessica and I want to support, plus a lot of other cool stuff for our family. But I'm doing the same thing. I'm getting around the people who are living the way I want to live. So here's the takeaway. Wherever you are, whatever you do, doesn't matter, if you're single, if you're married, if you're white, black, Christian, atheist, Buddhist, Muslim, it doesn't matter. It works the same way for all of us. This is a natural law of the universe, is that if you want different results, all you have to do is change your mind. Your best thinking has created the results that you've got right now. Stop making excuses. Stop blaming other people for the quality of your life. It's not the Republicans' fault. It's not the Democrats' fault. It's not the gas prices. It's not the economy. It's not your boss. It's you. It's the person that you see in the mirror every single day. And if you'll actually start addressing that, taking ownership of your life, and selectively get around people who are living the way you want to live, while simultaneously stop taking advice from people who are not living the way you want to live, okay? And I can do a whole separate video on that, because we've all got a lot of negative, struggling, broke people who want to tell us what we should be doing, right? If somebody's not living the way you want to live, you can probably ignore their advice, okay? But when you start getting around those people, it's the fastest shortcut to success is to simply get around a group of people that are living the way you want to live. And then on top of that also, get into some good books. Get into some good audios. We recommend lots of different resources to our customers. That's a success tip for you today. I'm going to, I think we're almost done packing to head to the airport. So I'm going to head out and get back home in time to see my kids perform at a play this evening. So if you're not living the way you want to live, stop, take ownership of it, and start getting around the people that are living the way you want to live, and you'll absolutely start seeing some major improvements in your life. Talk to you guys soon.
Thank you, Tony, for that. Okay, now, did you find that helpful? I said that Tony's a bit of a straight shooter, calls a spade. Did he press any buttons for you? So look, regarding this book, Think and Grow Rich, This is the version that I've managed to acquire just recently. It's the original version restored and revised. Now Tony had a different version, of course, because there's been lots of editions that have come out. But this particular one is one of the latest editions that have come out. I managed to get this from the UK for just $22. It arrived in around about a week. You can jump onto Amazon, just do a Google search perhaps. I highly recommend it, and I'll be reading this, well, I've read it twice now, and I'm about to start my third reading of it with a pencil and underlining, making notes in the margin. Look, the other book that he mentioned was The Instant Millionaire. This is just a little book by Mark Fisher. I noticed I had it on my shelf. I read it a few years ago, and he also mentioned that as well. There are a lot of really good books by some really good authors, and we'll talk about that in another video. Look, that about wraps up our little video today. I do thank you for joining me. If you did get value out of this, please like, comment and share, and feel free to pass on the video link to someone else who you think may benefit. And listen, before you go, if you're open to making money online, home-based business, internet marketing, and you're looking for somewhere, a bit of a niche to become successful on your journey to becoming rich, click on the link below this video. There's a button or a link, and I'll give you more information about what Tony and my wife Wendy and I are actually working on at this time. So, thank you for joining me, and I look forward to catching up with you in another video. Bye for now.